Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Page of Swords podcast. This is episode 38 with John Evans, who is a classic national level competitor. So welcome, John.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Just so the listeners know, me and John went to the same high school. So that's how we know each other. And yeah, we both bodybuild. I think it's just we come from small towns and here we are, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Not a lot of people get into bodybuilding, so it's
Not where we're
interesting to see other people from the same school you went to get into the same thing.
Right. And you were a year younger than me, or at least a grade younger. So I know we didn't really have like any classes or anything together, but I don't know. We've crossed paths though, but you know how school is and stuff. Even a small school, I feel like we didn't really talk too much, but I know that you were a football player, correct?
I played football in like 8th grade and then I quit.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I was so small.
Oh, well, did you play other sports then?
Yeah, I started running track. So I did track my freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think my sophomore year, when I started playing volleyball. And then that's what I did for the rest of high school is I played volleyball.
How did you like volleyball? That's interesting. Like I know that our school had a pretty good volleyball team for both women and men, but what made you get into volleyball?
I don't really know. I had a lot of friends, obviously, that were on the team. And once I started to play and got better at it, it was a lot of fun. Like it was high intensity pretty much the whole time you were playing. And I think that's what really drew me into it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, we had a pretty good team. So to play at a high level against schools that were 3-4 times our size, like we play against North Allegheny, which was like a quad A, enormous school with all these guys that were 6'2" plus, and then we have our school that was like we had one guy that was over 6'2", and the rest of us were like 5'10", but we could all jump really high. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure with track and everything, you were probably able to kind of correlate the two together to really build some strength in the legs and everything. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, back then I didn't really train anything besides legs. So, and it's weird now that my legs aren't super huge. Obviously, I think it's one of my biggest weak points, but I always say to myself, I'm like, man, for how much I used to train legs when I was super younger, you would think they would be bigger now, but I guess the training was different back then. I was training more like fast twitch muscles to be able to jump high versus look a certain way now. So
Yeah, I'm sure in some way it's helped you in some sort of way because like I always like wish that I would have done track for that reason. I'm sure like um we can get into it when we talk about the show history and everything too, but it seems like you get your legs pretty conditioned, and I know that a lot of track people I've seen are pretty good at that once they're in bodybuilding.
yeah, I think especially this year, my legs leaned out like really fast, well, faster than normal. So I was excited about that.
Definitely. We'll get there though, because I know you've got definitely a few shows under your belt that will lead up to that. So school, let's see, you graduated in 2011, right?
That's right.
Okay. Okay. So when you when did you? Okay, no, 2011. So what happened after high school? What did you end up doing?
I got a job. I was working in nuclear power plants, which I still do now. So I was really just traveling and doing that. And then I would work back home. Like I would travel in the spring and the fall, and then the rest of the year I would work back home. And that's when I got into training was I was traveling and I went up to a plant in New York, and there was 2 guys there that were really big. Like one guy was 50 years old, and to this day, I think he's still probably got the biggest arms I've ever seen in my life. I mean, with the exception of Ian. I mean, his arms are, but he doesn't count. He's a freak.
True. And this guy didn't bodybuild?
What's that?
And he didn't bodybuild?
No, they just trained to train, but they looked like they could have competed if they wanted to, but they just like to work out.
That's cool.
And at the time, I wasn't 21 yet, so everybody else that was there, all they did was go to work and then go out to the bar. But obviously, I couldn't do that because I wasn't old enough. So that's when I got into working out because I didn't have anything else to do.
Hey, it happens, and at least it was something healthier. So I guess it's not really a bad thing.
Right.
Um, so when did you, well, I wanted to ask, when did you end up going to Arizona? I know you and Jordan have been there for a while because my mom actually knows Jordan's mom. So I heard like, was it because of Jordan's mom you guys went out there?
I was actually, we were living in South Carolina
Okay.
and I lost my job there because they were building a brand new nuclear power plant. And
Okay.
then they just went bankrupt and laid everybody off.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got a job out here and that's what brought us out here.
Okay.
And that was February of 2018. I think we came out here and then her mom actually didn't move out here until
Okay.
after that.
So you two were first and then mom came around.
Yeah.
So if you were there in 2018, then so then you must have gotten into bodybuilding right before that, because I'm seeing that your first show was April 4th, 2017.
Yeah. In South Carolina was my first year doing classic. Before that, I competed in OCB
Oh, okay.
and I did 2 shows in men's physique, but I didn't really like that. They told me that my back was too big for men's physique, which didn't make any sense to me at the time because I'm like, I would always look at all the guys in the NPC and compare, myself to them. And I'm like, wait, these guys are the best guys in the world. What do you mean my back's too big? But I guess it's different in natural organizations versus NPC. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I did those 2 shows and then decided that Classic came out right after my second show. And I decided that I wanted to switch to that. So then I did my first show in South Carolina, the Palmetto Classic, and I got second place there.
Mhm. Yeah, it's real good. You look good too. I mean, I see some of the pictures, and you already had the nice small waist and everything too, and that was plenty of years ago, So we'll move on to like the closer shows and everything too. So let's see here, 2017. Wait, who got you into bodybuilding? Like, what made you like realize there were shows and stuff, or even like OCB? I mean, I honestly, I think I might have heard about NPC before I heard about OCB. So I'm curious where you found out about OCB.
I was living in North Carolina, or not, New York, and I was doing my apprenticeship through work. And one of the guys that was there, he was a mechanic. He actually was competing in OCB, did bodybuilding. And we had trained together a few times. And he told me that I should think about doing a show sometime. And he told me like 6.5 weeks out from the show. So then I just decided to do the same show as him. And like I didn't know anything. I took his meal plan that he was doing
Mhm.
and just kind of adjusted it myself
Mhm.
to how I looked and what I thought I needed to do at the time to look better. So
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
did that. I prepped myself for like 5.5 weeks and did my first show. I actually got second place there.
Okay.
And the guy who beat me won the overall and turned pro.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say New York. I do know of like the Yorton Cup. I think might be up there. One of
Yeah,
the
it's
big
like,
big ones.
I think that's like the Olympia of OCB.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard a little bit of them. I know that they're very like sparse. There's not too many of them because I have a friend who's an OCB figure pro, and I know she's been wanting. I think she's done 2 shows now, but she's like, it's just hard to find them because I guess not every. It's like the NPC. Not every pro show has figure. There's only like a couple, and I'm just like, well, that sucks.
Yeah, it kind of seems like their shows are a lot more scarce than NPC, where there's or IFBB, where there's shows every weekend all summer long.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing why people want to make the switch. I feel like the only reason is for, natural reasons, which I understand if that's really important to that person.
Yeah, and
So let's see, 2018, you started picking it up. When did you start working with, you were with Derek before, right? As a coach? When did you
yeah,
find Derek?
I started working with him right when I moved to South Carolina, and I decided that I was going to switch from men's physique and the OCB and go to classic. So I started working with him. I had known him before that through other people that worked with him, and like we followed each other on Instagram and we talked here and there. But yeah, once I decided I was going to make that switch, I realized I needed some more help if I was going to go, because my weight cap was 192 when that year came out. And when I started working with Derek, I was like 148 pounds at 5'10". So
Yeah.
I definitely needed some guidance to get me up there.
Hey, yeah, and I know for you guys that it's funny because I feel like us girls, we want to find someone to help us lose weight or whatever, and you're like, no, I need to like gain a lot,
Right.
and I've got all this room, and I need help. So that's really interesting to hear that from that part or that perspective.
Definitely, like for me, my metabolism is super fast and like I have to eat a lot. So like I never would have known for myself that I needed to eat 6,000 calories for a few months, every single day to be able to gain weight like that.
Can I ask what kind of foods like works for you? Like, because I know like in the gym, I have a lot of, younger aspiring bodybuilders at my gym, and they, I'm always telling them, it sounds like you're under eating. So I'm just curious, like what kind of foods are, you don't have to say a meal plan meal, but like, excuse me, what foods work for you that you found really helped put up the size?
Uh, I pretty much eat like basic bodybuilder, boring diet stuff. So oatmeal,
Hmm.
lots of rice, potatoes, chicken, steak. Pretty much right now, that's all I eat for protein is chicken and steak, and then rice, potatoes, oatmeal
Okay. So, and
for
it
the
sounds
most
like they're
part.
very starchy. Like you're
Yeah.
like I know you said you have rice and stuff, but the potatoes and oatmeal are pretty heavy. And I'm sure that like that helps with the muscle gaining and everything that you need to do. How many times a day are you eating? Like how many meals?
6 right now. It's
Okay.
been 6 for a long time.
Okay. And that's for prep and off season or just
Yep.
okay. All right. And I know that, with your job, is it pretty labor intensive too? Like do you feel like you burn a lot at work?
Sometimes not real. I mean, twice a year we shut down and have to put new fuel rods into the reactor. So when we do that, we work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day on day shift or night shift.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I do that, I guess it's more or less, it's not really labor intensive. Like I'm not carrying around 100 pounds of stuff or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that all night long, but it's definitely wears you down. It makes it hard to get your meals in with my job during those 2 times because sometimes I get there and I'll get my work for the day and I'll leave the shop and not come back for 4 or 5 hours. So,
Mm-hmm.
and last year I prepped through that on night shift for USA's. So I like said I would never do that. And then I don't know why last year I decided that I needed to do something I didn't think that I would be able to do. So, but it was miserable. I'll never do it again.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, so what was the end result? You're like, nope, never again. But you're probably glad you at least tried.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at your history here. You've done tons of shows. You did a Bob Ciccarello show. You did Europa. You've done a variety. You've even done the Amateur Olympia. I'm sure because you're down in Arizona, you're pretty close. So why not, right?
Yeah.
How was that experience? Because I haven't been to an Olympia yet, so that's pretty cool to even step on that stage.
Yeah, it was awesome. Amateur Olympia was like one of the best run shows that I think I've ever done. And I mean, it was sweet to get the pictures with, the Olympia sign and stuff behind you. And there was a ton of good athletes there. I think that was in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was 38 people in my class.
Okay.
And everybody who's placed ahead of me is a pro now. So everybody was pretty good. I
For
think
sure.
that was the highest I've placed at a pro qualifier show so far, but it was a lot of fun. Olympia was sweet. I think the Expo is not as good as the Arnold Classic, but
Yeah.
it
Well,
was
things are
still cool
different
to
now.
go and see all the pros and watch. I got to watch prejudging for classic physique and men's physique and a couple of the women's classes. So
Mhm.
it was awesome. You should definitely go.
Oh yeah, I'm going this year. I'm going to the Florida one. I think they might be moving it back to Vegas next year from what I hear rumor wise.
Yeah,
But
I've heard a lot of rumors. It's
yeah,
going back
same
to
here.
Vegas or it's going to go travel around like it used to, like a new state every year.
Yeah, I could
But
see that. Especially well, whatever makes the most money is what they'll do.
yeah, Like to
You
see
know
what
what? Oh, go
COVID
ahead.
stuff does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the organization as a whole, but I get it. So it's kind of interesting too, as I'm looking through some of your photos. I didn't realize that the classic shorts are just getting smaller.
Yeah. A lot of guys too now, it looks like they're like rolling up the sides. Like I noticed it at USA's this year. I'm like, mine kind of looks stupid compared to everybody else's because their sides are all rolled up and they're like an inch and a half wide by their hips, and it shows like their adductors way higher up, and it looked different than what I had on.
See, that is so interesting because obviously, like us girls in figure, like I already know you got to really pull our bottoms up. Like when I'm back there getting glued, I tell the girls, I'm like, go as far as you can because you, like you said, you want to show those lines in the legs a little better and you have to pull the shorts up. But, you know, even physique, their shorts are getting shorter
Yeah.
for the quad lines and stuff. And it's just really interesting.
I've been seeing a lot that a lot of men's physique guys want to go wear those shorts that like in 2018
Mhm.
pictures, how they like came halfway down. They were like boxer briefs almost.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about men's physique should wear those.
Isn't it funny how it's just let's keep going up every year it's just going to keep getting more and more, and then before you know it's going to be like
All
classic wearing
bodybuilding.
speedo things.
We'll all just have a whole bunch of weird bodybuilding classes after that. Go back
Right.
to one class.
So I'm looking at 2019 right now. You did a lot of shows that year. I
I
think,
think I
right?
did too.
Big, you did a Phil Heath. Oh, okay. It's just that you did
I think that's the other guy. I did
okay.
Phoenix, Europa, and North Americans.
Okay. Yeah, I guess you're sharing something. Did you do Big Cat too? Or no?
No,
No. Okay, that must have been the other guy. That's so weird. That's a Pennsylvania. Oh yeah, that is somebody else. Pennsylvania show, but not you.
yeah. I don't think
Um,
I ever competed in Pennsylvania.
North Americans,
Well,
right?
besides North Americans, yeah.
Was that your first national level show? Right?
Yeah, outside of amateur Olympia, but I
Oh.
guess that's not really, I don't know if they consider that a national show or not.
Do they give pro cards for the first place like the Arnold?
Yeah,
Okay, well then, yeah.
but it's like everybody from all over the world can show up there. So I don't know if it's international versus national or how you would categorize shows like that.
How was your experience at North Americans? I mean, I'm sure that was nice that you got to do at least one show in the area.
It was nice being home as all my family still lives there, right? So all I had to do was get a flight, go stay at my mom's house, which is in Monroeville.
Mm-hmm.
So that aspect of it was pretty all right. And Derek, I was still working with him at the time he was there. So
Mm-hmm.
it was nice to have your coach there to look at you in person. So the
Definitely.
show itself, it was all right. I feel like they lined us up super early. Like they had us in this one room, got everybody up on their feet like 2.5 hours before we went on stage. And then like after an hour of standing there, moved you to another line. And then you just like 3 times we did that. We just stood there, moved to another line, stood there before we actually went on stage. But so I didn't really like that. But I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine running a show like this where there's hundreds, thousands of people. I think there was 1,200 people competing there that weekend when I did it.
Yeah, and like it's like every division on its own day pretty much. So like
Yeah.
that's different from like any other show that I can think of right now. So how would you say the difference between USA's and North Americans was? Like obviously like that divisions are on their own day, like we just said, but like between the setup and everything, I'm assuming you liked USA's better.
I like USA's. I like USA's last year better than I liked it this year. But
Oh, really? Cool.
yeah,
Tell me the difference.
last year it wasn't 2 days. Like it, finals and prejudging wasn't 2 days, and I think that's why I liked it better. But
So the
it
prep
was
was harder.
separated.
The show's good.
It was separated like Friday all the guys went and Saturday all the girls went.
Okay.
So I feel like that helped move the show along. But
Mm-hmm.
outside of that, I mean, the USA's was a good show both years.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good people that compete there. I think North Americans, talent-wise, athletes you compete against is just as good as any other show. I think those are probably the two hardest national shows that there are.
Mhm. I would agree with that. I mean, especially Pittsburgh, the Manions, they love promoting it for the Pittsburgh reason. So
Right.
there's always that I keep in mind. Do you remember what your feedback was from last year's USAs?
Yeah, they said my back needed to be wider.
Really?
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
back
which
looks great.
I didn't think that made sense personally. Like I would agree that my back can be thicker, especially my lower back,
Yeah.
but nobody's ever told me that my back needs to be wider.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, really? Because you have such a nice, you kept your waist small too. So that's like huge in my opinion for any division, but classic especially.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so they said have my back wider, my legs could be bigger, always can be more conditioned. And they said bring up my arms a little bit.
Okay. Interesting. And I would assume you definitely did that for this year for sure. Your legs definitely look like they got bigger when I compare the two.
I think that between this year and last year, especially with how short of an off season I had, my legs grew a lot. We were 10 pounds heavier the morning of the show this year than I was last year.
That's awesome. That is really good. And when did you start working with Ian Valier?
January of this year.
Okay, cool. And overall, positive experience, I would probably say, huh?
Yeah, I love working with Ian. He's everything you see on Instagram of how he is exactly how he is in person. He's just super genuine and he knows a lot about bodybuilding, obviously. And he's just one of those guys that if it's not broke, don't fix it, and get the most out of everything you can do before you try to change anything to
Oh, yeah.
switch things up.
And I know that we kind of talked about how you started with him, like just kind of following along whenever he opened up, open for clients and stuff. But, I just wanted to talk briefly that, Ian seems like the kind of guy that doesn't take on too many clients. So that's pretty cool that you're on his team and like you probably get the right amount of attention that you need for a competitor.
It's definitely, since I started working with him, so many people ask me, how do I get in with Ian? Is Ian taking new people, and can you tell him about me? And I'm just like, if you send him a DM on Instagram, he sees it. If he wants to work with you, then he will. Like, the only way I think that I got in was one of my friends, Brandon Cooper, has worked with him forever. And I feel like he asked Ian for probably a year and a half if he would take me on. Like every other month, he would ask him. And like it got to the point where I felt like it was being annoying that he kept asking him and I didn't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually like 2 days away from signing up with somebody else this year whenever Brandon texted me and said, Ian said he'll take you on. So that was pretty cool to finally, I don't know if he just looked at my showing from last year and decided that, I was somebody worth coaching, or what changed his mind, I don't know. But I'm glad that he did change his mind.
That's awesome. And that shows too that, sometimes you just got to know people to get somewhere, like I know people are like wanting you to like tell them stuff like your buddy did, but yeah, it's all about who you know, and just you got to stay persistent too. Maybe he just knew after being annoying or whatever for so long too. It was kind of like, all right, you put in the work, I'll do it.
And I feel like, I've gotten a lot better over the years, like in a short period of time.
Yeah,
So
and it shows. Mm-hmm.
maybe he was looking at that and said, this guy, obviously he knows how to train and he works hard and stays consistent. And you never know. I've never asked him. I'm not going to text him and say, hey, what changed your mind after a year and a half of me bugging you?
Hey, you're like, hey, what? Like you said, it's working. It's not broken. You just keep doing it. So, and then you just got to meet Ian at the Texas show that he just competed at. So, how was the experience at the show?
Oh, the show was awesome. The crowd really got into it, and it was cool to be there and see Guy Sister Nino's last show. I mean, he got really emotional on stage. anybody would, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the current events that are going on, and John Meadows was his coach. So it's
Yeah.
cool to see him compete for the last time. He looked awesome. And then, first call out to men's open was everybody looked really good. It's nice to see Martin Fitzwater's pro debut. He looked awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Kuklo looked really good. But
Mm-hmm.
I was a little biased, obviously. So
I understand. It's okay.
as soon as I saw Ian, I was just like, give him a trophy, send everybody home.
And you know what? That's where I was at too. I was kind of like, I love Ian. He's just one of my absolute favorites. But, Steve hasn't been on stage in a couple years, since he was like 5th or 6th at the Olympia. And, he did the Arnold too and placed pretty high. But, it was kind of like, this is going to be exciting. But it's really hard to pick whenever one hasn't been on stage and the other one's on a winning streak. You're like,
Right.
It just was an exciting show. So that's awesome you were there to see it in person.
That and the guy, the third place guy,
Phil, right?
Phil Klahar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He looked really good too. So you didn't really, you're just the whole time you're leading up to the show, you're wondering like, what's Steve going to look like? And because you're trying to make these predictions of who's going to do what. But like you said, you haven't seen him compete in 2 years. And you're like, well, he could be really good, or I don't know if he's going to be good enough to compete with these guys anymore. But he looked awesome, and I think he's going to look even better at the Arnold. So that'll be a good show to watch.
Yeah, I've been noticing it is really beneficial to do one show and just, kind of maybe bring in maybe 85, 90%. And then whatever that next show is, a little more. Or, if you're trying to go for the Olympia, then you go full 110%. But yeah, these big guys, I think that they all need a warm-up show, and Ian's kind of got some momentum going.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys too that are doing tons and tons of shows, like that Siobhan guy.
Yeah, right.
He did like 5 or 6 shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so did the
Hassan.
Yeah, Hassan.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's starting to look a little tired.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard enough doing 1 or 2. I don't know how these guys do 5 or 6 week after week, like with no break in between.
That's what I'm saying too, because as much like you got to really love it, and just, when you're at that level too, I just don't know how the body can keep up with everything that you're doing. And like, cause there's a bikini girl, she did 10 pro shows this year. And I'm just like,
Ashley?
Wow. Yeah. I think she's done 10. She's probably done more at this point, cause she competed, she did 2 shows. She did the Texas show, and then she went and did one of the other ones that was like Sunday. Like, she hopped on a plane and just went right back on stage. I'm like, wow, that's just crazy.
But I was watching another podcast yesterday when I was doing cardio, and they were talking about Ian doing multiple shows, and that Ashley Kolpalser or whatever her name is,
yeah,
how she did multiple shows, and how people are upset that they won shows and blocked other people basically from going to Olympia. But
yeah, but if you can't beat them at that show, then what are you going to do at the Olympia when
you're not going to beat them at the Olympia then? So what difference does it make? Like, it's just everybody feels like they need their chance to participate, I guess
too. And I mean, like, that's the thing, like, I'm happy Ian won, but I would love to see Steve get into that lineup and just be a part of the show just for, entertainment value. But, you're right. They hit the stage and, they get judged on that day, and the judges made the right call. So that's just how it goes.
It was kind of interesting in Texas. I was sitting in a crowd, and I was kind of worried a little bit that, politics were going to play into it, and they would say, well, you know what, Ian's already qualified. Steve will put people in the seats. This is his hometown. Yeah. I think it could have been very easy for them to give him first place and Ian second, just to get him qualified. But I wouldn't say it was easy, because Ian's conditioning in person, I thought, was a lot better, and Steve didn't really outsize him in very many shots.
Yeah, I was looking at a few of those, and like, Steve is he's a big guy and he has a great pose from the front, but then, when Ian does his like side tricep and stuff, it just blows it out of the water. So what are you going to do? It's that waist, man, tiny waist.
Yeah. From the side, I don't know anybody that beats Ian. His legs are just huge and his waist is tiny and his upper body's enormous.
Absolutely. So going back to this year's USA's, have you gotten feedback from this year?
Not yet.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on mine too. Who did you have to email?
I sent an email to the muscle contest, like promoter.
Oh, okay.
Or the media person.
Okay.
I don't remember what her email was, but I asked.
I didn't even post anything. I sent my stuff to Sandy just because I already had her email from my other show this year.
Yeah, I wish I could get feedback from her, but I sent it to the two people they told me to, and then I DM'd Tyler.
Okay.
And I haven't heard anything back, and then I DM'd Powerhouse Gym, or where Steve trains out of. So,
okay.
But I haven't heard anything back from anybody yet. So, but there's been like back-to-back shows since USA's been over. So I figured it's going to probably be a little bit before I hear anything.
Yeah, there's just so many shows going on right now just to kind of wrap up the year, I guess you could say, because I know I was really hoping that Bill Sebelio was going to be at a show, because sometimes he judges our local shows here, and I thought he'd be at the one last weekend, but I guess he was like the only high up judge that could make it to the Spain show. So he was over at the Spain Pro show, and I'm like, well, that makes sense because I guess everybody else was at Texas, maybe.
Yeah, I think Gary was judging at Texas. I saw him there.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to say Gary wasn't around at the local shows either, which I figured sometimes he floats around. So, yeah, that makes sense then. He probably wanted to see the show too because it was so good. So do you have any plans moving forward now? So where are we at now?
Right now, I'm just kind of getting back to normal, I guess, after the show, right? Getting my calories back up, reversing out, trying not to eat too many cookies and get fat.
You know what? That actually, since you said that, I did get a question. If the Bougie Bakery, or his name, does that contribute to your gains?
Those cookies are also big that, like, I have one or two and then I'm just like, and I like sweets a lot, but I have one or two of those over the course of a couple of days and I'm just like, all right, I need a break from these things. Yeah, they're good. He actually texted me after the show and he was like, you just got to have one pre-workout or post-workout a day and you'll get huge.
Yeah, those cookies are good for you guys, not for the girls, but the guys, yeah, you guys you can like morel that stuff, you know, because the cookie dealer guy, he just eats those all the time.
I always cut them in half and say I'm only going to eat half, but then it never works and I always end up eating the whole thing.
What's your favorite flavor cookie that he sells?
I don't know. He's got a bunch of good ones. He's got like a raspberry cheesecake one that's pretty good. He has a cinnamon roll one that I had after USA's, and that one was really good. It's got like a cinnamon roll Pop-Tart on top, and then like a mini cinnamon roll in the middle of the cookie. That's awesome. Probably that one's probably my favorite.
All right. Do you have to heat them up, or you just eat them straight out of the package?
I just eat them out of the package. I feel like most of the time I eat everything cold for the most part anyways, because my brain's still in prep mode where I'm just hungry and don't care.
Been there. You know what? I just had that conversation like a couple days ago with someone. They were like, because there's another pro that goes to my gym and he like always eats his fish cold in the car. And my other friend was like, why does he do that? And I'm like, I actually now prefer cold fish. I don't care. So you're probably in that boat too.
Everybody at work gives me crap because last year I would eat cod and green beans for breakfast. And they're like, are you even going to heat that up? And I'm just like, no, I don't even care anymore. Just give me some cold fish, a little bit of mustard and green beans and leave me alone.
I totally agree. And plus when you heat it up and it's too hot and you're starved, you're like, I'm going to burn my mouth, but I don't care. I'm hungry.
Then it smells and everybody's like, who microwave fish?
You're like the only bodybuilder that's here. Is there a show that you would like to do that you've never done?
Yeah, I'd really like to do Junior USA's, and I've been kind of thinking about doing that for my next pro qualifier, but it doesn't really line up with my work schedule. Like I said, about the 2 times a year when I'm on 12s, that usually starts right at March and the first week of October. So it's like all the shows I want to do, where it's right during those times. Like I could never do nationals because I'd be working nights basically until 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
So I don't really want to do that. And then I could probably do the other one. It makes it really hard to get the amount of sleep I need. Like physically, I'm able to do it, but I don't think my body responds to how little sleep I'm getting.
Yeah.
Because like last year when I did it for USA's, I would get up at 1 PM, go to the gym, work out, I'd leave my house at like 4:45 at night to go to work, to be there at 6. And then I wouldn't get home until 7 o'clock in the morning. So like I would average like 4.5 hours of sleep the whole time I was prepping. So you can physically do it, but whether or not your body's going to be able to recover and look the best that it could, I don't think I looked the best I could at 2020 USA's, but I looked the best I could for what I was giving my body to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sleep is so important.
Yeah, I think sleep's probably the most underrated tool that people don't utilize.
I would agree, and I'm glad that you're kind of saying that for any of those kids that don't realize that. How many rest days a week do you do?
2. So since I started working with Ian, I'm taking 2, which was weird for me as the first prep that I did, where I had 2 rest days a week, and I wasn't going 6 days a week to train and doing cardio. I'm still doing cardio 7 days a week, but
yeah, that's typically prep though. Prep cardio never goes away, but I mean, I hear it all the time, especially with the young ones. They feel like they always have to do the most because they don't know what to do with their time, especially the ones that are in high school. And I'm just like, no, like the rest days are important. So I'm glad that you're kind of saying that, Ian gives you them and you're using them.
yeah. And I feel like the better I get and the bigger I get, the more that I'm doing less, basically, right? Like I'm taking more rest days. My training isn't anything like it was when I started. Like I used to go to the gym for 1.5, 2 hours, and I would do, 10 different exercises and 5 sets. And like now I do like 4 or 5 exercises and I have 2 working sets. And then I'm there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe an hour.
That's all you need. Like just get in, do the basic things, make it count, and you're good. Go home, let the body relax, rest. That's when the muscle gets built. And plus, you're talking about the foods that you're eating. You're eating all these foods that are actually going to replenish you in the proper way too, which is so important.
Right. That's why everybody that asks me questions about working out, like, oh, what workout should I do and how long should I do it and how many sets and exercises? My first question is always like, well, what's your diet like?
Yep. Same.
And everybody's, oh, well, I just kind of eat what I want. I'm not super strict. I can't stick to a set meal plan. I'm like, diet's probably 80% of bodybuilding, and people don't understand that.
It is, especially guys. I feel like they like to eat, like they'll have like 2 meals a day, but they're bigger meals. And like you just said, you eat 6. I eat 5, and people are like, wow, you eat a lot. And I'm like, I'll eat more if you want. Like,
yeah.
And then these people that tell me 2 meals, I feel bad. There was a guy yesterday that messaged me and we were talking about nutrition, and this guy doesn't bodybuild, just a guy that wants to like put on some weight and build muscle. He told me he eats 2 times a day. And I was like, well, no wonder you're small. You're not eating enough. And I probably just killed his ego a little bit, but that's just, you guys have to eat way more than us girls. And if you're telling me I eat too much, then you need to eat more.
Yeah. Most people, especially people that are like, don't bodybuild, right? That they just want to lose weight. Every time they tell you like, oh, well, I eat 2 times a day and this is what I eat. I'm like, you're not eating enough. They're like, you mean you're telling me that I need to eat more to lose weight? And I'm like, yes.
Yes. It's such a weird concept to people. And I'm just like, No, trust me. It's sometimes doing the most isn't necessary. Like, as in, like, more people always want to overtrain and undereat. Like, they just think like in their head that that's how that works. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Well, I think big mass majority of people think that, change happens from working out, and it really doesn't. Like, change happens from eating and sleeping.
Hmm.
Working out's probably 5% of that equation, right? 80% diet, 15% sleep, 5% eating.
Oh, I'm just so glad you're saying all this because this is the conversation I have with so many men in the gym. And as a girl, like I said, like I don't eat as much. Like I eat, but not as much. So to me, I'm always like, no, you guys need to eat more.
Yeah. Everybody always asks me, well, how much do you eat? And like right now, I'm eating like 5,000 calories a day, which is pretty high for being 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks post show. But
I'm sure
and
you
then
still have all your lines. You probably still look great with the whole reverse.
I'm definitely a little softer than I was at USA's, but that's all right.
It was the cookies, but it's going to be
Yeah.
in a good way.
It's hard for me to gain good weight anyways, just because
Okay.
of how fast my metabolism is. So I don't ever mind getting a little softer.
Hey, and that's another good thing. You're very comfortable with your body, I'm sure. And it's just like, that food and everything, like this is to put weight on, put muscle on. It has a purpose. So you're not scared.
Yeah. A lot of guys want to stay, you know, single digit body fat all year and then complain that they didn't get any bigger. Like, you have to kind of be all right with both sides, right? Like, you can't be 4% body fat and shredded and gain muscle at the same time. I don't care what you're doing. It just doesn't work like that.
It don't. And those are the people that I feel like it's more about the Instagram and attention than it is for the love of training and the process and the whole sport. So I can tell that you are definitely in that mindset where this is a plan. You have a coach and you follow, and you're like, no, I want to make improvements. I'm sure next year, whatever show you end up doing, like you're like, no, I know what I need to do, and I'm going to do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think bodybuilding's getting flooded with people who don't love the sport for what it is, and it's more they love the likes and comments on Instagram they get from the process.
Yes, I agree. And with everything going on right now, I think in the community, it just seems like there's just information and stuff all over the place. And then I don't know if people always get the right information. So then it's just,
Well, they definitely don't. Everybody's an online coach nowadays. Everybody knows everything there is to know about everything, but doesn't have any credentials on how they got that information. And people don't care. There's people get on Instagram and just go to someone's page and like the way they look and see online coach in their bio, and that's all the more thought they put into whether this person's a good coach or not. Well, it says they're a coach on Instagram, they must know what they're talking about.
especially if there's an IFBB or anything at
Right.
the end of it, because then it's like, oh, it's a pro, which I always find really funny because of I think you said the credentials and stuff are like lacking, and I'm like, yeah, like some of these people are just going off of what worked for them. They don't really
Right.
have the experience with other people and the success of other people, which is kind of like, ugh. And it's
Yeah.
like, this is our health, these people are paying good money. You don't want to ruin somebody.
Right. Well, a lot of people don't care.
Right. Yes. It's these like quick dollar coaches, man. And like, especially if they start getting a lot of clients where they can like up their chart or like their price and stuff. Cause I've seen some coaches and I hear about their price and I'm like, they are not worth that price.
Yeah. Like, I coached these two kids this year that did the regional show that I did. All the three of us did the same show together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't charge them. I charge them like 125, which
Okay.
is less than I paid when I first started. But
Right. And I'm sure you feel like you're giving back because
right.
like, I have a couple kids at Planet that, I pretty much just say I have them under my wing, especially the boys, because like I said, like, I'm like I don't give meal plans, but I tell the boys like, this is like a set list of things that you should be eating and probably like a rough idea. But like, I'm definitely like not the kind of person right now that wants to like charge. Like, I'll charge my posing clients that are females, but the guys, I'm just like, I'm just here for accountability, really, because I don't feel like I truly don't feel like I have it yet. But that's good that you are charging enough, but you still understand completely how a man would probably work or how that competition life would work.
Right.
And you're also not taking on too much either.
Yeah, I'm not taking 87 people and
Yeah, and your
just
full-time job.
right. That's another thing too, is it's like I want to take on more people, but it's like the 2 people I have, like I want to put so much time and detail into it that it's like a whole nother full-time job. Like I can't imagine having my job that I have now and then 20 people on top of that, like with just how I am and how detail oriented and how I want everything to be perfect. Like, but that's not a lot of people. A lot of people just come up with oh, here's a workout plan that everyone on their team is doing the same thing, or here's the meal plan where it's all the same meals and just the amounts vary for everybody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that just think it's one size shoe fits all, and that's what they do.
Very customized. And like, that's another thing too, you know, if you're gonna charge more money, then you better really be paying attention to these people and give them what they're paying for, because I mean, some of these people, like I said, are charging a lot.
Yeah, there's people out there charging $300 a month that haven't, like, what have you done? Like, what classes have you taken? What certifications do you have? Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
people don't ask those questions. Like, what makes you worth $300 a month from me?
Right.
And people don't ask that. They're just, oh, okay. They sign up for a month and then they quit.
Yeah, and it is very frustrating. I'm glad we've got good coaches. I'm sure Ian's happy with where you are right now. And like, we already talked about how he doesn't have too many clients. So that's what you want. You don't always have to have the super high level coaches. You know, I don't think Ian has good clients because he doesn't take on too many. And I know that coaches who have a lot that do really well, but I know that I feel better with a little bit of attention.
Yeah. I think everybody does.
In Arizona, are you guys going through another lockdown soon?
Not that I've heard, so I hope
No.
not.
Okay, I hope not either. My coach said something about how she heard that the gyms might close again, and I was like, "What?" But she watches the news more than I do, so I was just curious. I was like,
I don't ever watch the news, so maybe I'm in the dark, but I've not heard anything.
I would hope not. I'm
Yeah,
just like, what?
we don't even have to wear masks anywhere really here, so I can't imagine they're just gonna, oh, yep, everything's shut down.
I believe it. I mean, I would hope that we're on the uphill, but I know when I got home from USA's, I got sick from whatever I got on a plane and just being in prep stage of mine. You know what I mean? So
I didn't really get sick, but I definitely think that I got coronavirus from USA's because like 2 days after I couldn't taste anything and I couldn't smell anything.
last USA's or this year?
No, this year.
This year, really?
Yeah.
Gosh.
And like a week and a half later, like I could taste things again, but I still can't really like smell a lot of stuff.
And that was, I guess, your first encounter then of feeling any sort of COVID side effects?
Yeah. Like if it wasn't for that and I didn't know that those were symptoms, I never would have known that it could have been that. And I mean, I didn't go get tested because I wasn't sick. I couldn't taste when things were like salty or sweet, but not like, I couldn't tell you what flavor something was.
How are you supposed to eat the cookies then?
Just eat them.
You're like, I'm just getting calories in at this point. Oh, goodness. Well, you know what? We're getting to, over 45 minutes here, and I already appreciate you coming on after a night shift and getting some sleep and everything. So thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you want to kind of give any shout out or anything we might have missed?
Thanks for having me on, really. If anybody has any questions for me afterwards, feel free to ask me on Instagram, or that's really the only place I do anything. I have Facebook, but it's not, I just use it for family stuff.
Yeah, same.
But
And your Instagram is _John_boy_savage. So if
that's
anybody needs to
me.
find you, and then I'll make sure I have it in my bio or whatever for this as well. And yeah, that's great. And then I also saw that you're working with Jacked, right? The supplement company.
Yeah, Jack Factory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same as
I've
Chris.
used their stuff for a good bit, and then I mean I was using Evogen stuff for a really long time, and I was like an ambassador for them or whatever, and I like their stuff, but then they kind of gave me a hard time about being with them and Revive, and they told
Oh,
me that I had to pick and leave one of them. So I kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. And then like one of the guys they post all the time is an ambassador for both of them. And like once I saw that and they like post him all the time, he like openly post Evogen and Revive.
yeah.
And like they obviously didn't say anything to him. I was just kind of like, all right, I'm gonna go my separate ways, and started using Jack Factory stuff for probably the middle of last year until this year. And I really like everything they have. And then they actually emailed me during prep and asked if I'd be interested in working with them. So that was pretty cool.
That feels good too. Yeah, I'm sure that they see that you're working with Ian, and I know that Chris has some supplements and stuff with that brand. So that worked out. That works out
Yeah,
better for you because I know
I'm not
Ian
mad
does
about
stuff
it.
with Revive. Hmm. Perfect. And then I see in your bio they have all the discount codes for you in your bio. So anybody that's interested in those supplements, check you out. And yeah, again, thanks for coming on and everything. It's really cool. Like I said, it's just interesting that both come from the same small town and we're just bodybuilders and meeting again.
Right.
So, all right. Well, have a great night. Tell Jordan I said hello. And yeah, I'll have this posted later.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks again for having me.
Of course. Thanks, John. See ya.
Yep.